Hello, everybody.
Be right there.
Yeah, we will be right there with you. Oh, wow. I found a fascinating list on Paste Magazine of the 100 greatest documentaries of all time.
Yes.
It was a very interesting list.
Excuse me, pardon me.
Sure. Most interesting because of the things that were on that list, like how many times Werner Herzog showed up.
Oh my gosh.
And how many times other people did not show up. Like Ken Burns didn't show up ever, not once, in the 100 greatest documentaries of all time. But, you know, other people like, you know, the Sales brothers who did Grey Gardens.
Yeah.
And,
you know, I didn't like that.
You didn't like Grey Gardens?
I mean, for the time, because I'm watching it now.
Yes.
I understand how amazing it was when it was released.
No, at that time they didn't have handheld cameras. That was new, to have a handheld camera that was small enough to just follow people around in their house and just let them just talk.
Yeah.
I mean, reality television must have started some point around that time. In 1976 or 77, when the Mails brothers were documenting the dilapidated old house called Grey Gardens that was really in ruins, full of raccoons and bugs and cat poop, and this dilapidated old house where Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy's older cousin was living in complete, what you'd call
Squalor.
Squalor, yes, squalor. In the meantime, her young cousin, little Edie, becomes a fashion icon and becomes a gay and lesbian icon for her deluded insistence on constantly wearing the perfect outfit and the perfect headscarf for every day.
I didn't pick up any of that GLBT subtext.
That's because you are unaware of the fact that for decades, have you watched RuPaul's Drag Race recently?
Yes.
They have some of the contestants actually dressing as little Edie from Grey Gardens all the time.
Really?
Oh, yeah, all the time. Todd Oldham, famous designer Todd Oldham, who also hosted many shows on MTV networks.
MTV made him.
Yeah, well, yes, and he actually made a name for himself before
Cindy
MTV.
Crawford actually made him because
Todd Oldham worships little Edie and
House
Grey
of
Gardens,
Style.
the whole thing. Yeah, House of Style,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, that came from Todd Oldham's fixation on Grey Gardens. His career as a fashion designer started there. Ask Isaac Mizrahi, ask any of these great fashion designers who hit it big in the 90s. They'll tell you that in the 70s their influence was Grey Gardens, of all things. But it's a hard movie to watch because it's a really dysfunctional family that's, you know, trying to stay together in the spirit of what they used to live with money. And they don't have the money, they don't have anything but dilapidated squalor, but they still have this oomph. They have this weird spirit about them, which is kind of infectious and kind of funny, because they're crazy characters. They're just cuckoo.
it's wonderful
It's really
to watch.
cuckoo.
We're talking about Grey Gardens.
Well, we started off by talking about the 100 greatest documentaries of all time. Guess what made the top of that list? From Chicago, I'm quite proud of this fact, Hoop Dreams, #1 documentary of all time.
Good.
Oh, it was great. Yeah, it was really, really great, actually.
Hello, I stole the
Hello.
One Ring. Thank you for joining the chat room. It's Torn Tuesday.
everybody.
It's time for Torn Tuesday, your weekly dose of all things Hobbit and Lord of the Rings from Cliff and Justin. We're here live every Tuesday at
Yes.
5 p.m. Pacific from the middle of Hollywood. We're inside Meltdown Comics Hollywood.
The very heart of Hollywood and the very heart of geekdom here
Everything.
in Hollywood.
Yeah, like
Everything's here.
on the other side of that wall, the Nerdist podcast is recorded.
Yes.
And so is Kumail Nanjiani's podcast
So funny.
with his wife. They talk about the X-Files. He's got an X-Files podcast, and if you were checking Twitter and you're a fan of Kumail, who's actually on Silicon Valley, the HBO show, he posted a picture. Kumail, who hosts an X-Files podcast, has been cast in the new X-Files.
Oh, good. That's
Talk
very
about
good.
living the dream.
That's perfect.
Like,
That's
he is a
perfect.
huge X-Files fan. He started a X-Files podcast, and now he got cast to be on the new X-Files, which they're filming 6 episodes for.
How cool. It's a
And
miniseries, right?
It's
I've heard a lot of noise about this X-Files new miniseries, this limited series that they're making.
well, the interesting
like,
thing
good
is
stuff.
they didn't. They're making new X-Files. But curiously, they're only making 6 episodes. Let me tell you why.
Yes.
When it comes to awards season, there's mini-series awards and there's dramatic series awards. Dramatic is 12 episodes or more, 24 episodes.
Yes.
Stuff like Modern Family and Mad Men and
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better
Yes.
Call Saul. Mini-series, 6 episodes or under. So even though it's a series, they call it a mini-series.
They do.
Which,
Or limited series, yes.
but it used to be, the award was originally meant for like movie of the week. Like, you know, sometimes there would be a special movie of the week, which was like Sunday night, and then concluding tomorrow or concluding next week, you know, it'd be like a special event. Now they've taken full advantage of the mini series. So you've got shows like what's that cop drama? True Detective.
That's the one. Well, now with what's his face, Colin Farrell having replaced Matthew McConaughey, boy, does he have shoes to fill.
Well, that's the thing with these short mini-series, is that every season has to be standalone. So
Yes.
you've got this weird thing. Is American Horror Story? I don't think it's a mini-series, but every season is a whole different story.
It's an anthology, yes.
Yeah.
It's an anthology.
So True
yes.
Detective. So
Similar
basically, when it comes to award season next year, you're gonna see a X-Files go up against True Detective.
Yeah, you are.
So,
you are definitely going to see that.
And possibly some of these other short stories like Tut, which just premiered this week.
Yes, that looks interesting. Ben Kingsley.
If you're just joining us, we're talking about documentaries and miniseries. There's a lot of commotion about the Emmy nominations that were just announced.
Yes, indeed, there were.
And MTV just announced a bunch of stuff, and you just read a top 100 documentaries.
Yes,
and
I want to get back to that. That's so many fascinating documentaries, because I have an interest in this because I'm also a documentary filmmaker, and we got a lot of awards and a lot of attention when we made our documentary film about ringers, about the whole phenomenon of Tolkien fans and the culture of fandom that became what it is now. All these years later, since 76 years ago, The Hobbit was first published, and The Lord of the Rings long after that, about 15 years after The Hobbit was made. It's such a long time. But there's also news in the air that our very own Aragorn has died. Did you know that our Aragorn, who you guys might not know this, but multiple Tony winner and singer, songwriter, and Broadway star, Theodore Beikel, most famous for playing over 4,000 performances of Fiddler on the Roof on Broadway. Well, he was also the voice of Aragorn, the king, in The Return of the King animated version that was done by Rankin and Bass.
Rankin and Bass.
In 1982.
Not Ralph Bakshi.
Not at all, no. The Ralph Bakshi voice of Aragorn was John Hurt, the legendary British actor John Hurt.
Yeah, like you got me confused. Like,
I got you confused for a second there, didn't I? But here's the news headline: Theodore Beikel, Fiddler on the Roof star, dies at 91. But did you guys realize this? When you take a look, he was the voice of Aragorn.
Okay.
Yeah, Theodore Beikel was the voice of Aragorn.
In the not sequel to Ralph Bakshi.
In the non-sequel animated television version of The Return of the King, after they did The Hobbit on television, they did The Return of the King. So I have to say, it is time for me to appropriately take my hat off and say, rest in peace. A very fond farewell to you, Theodore Beikel. You were really awesome on Broadway. Everybody loved Fiddler on the Roof, like forever, the show that would never stop.
Yeah.
The most famous characters, it was either Zero Mostel, who played that role,
Okay.
or him, Theodore Beikel. But in between the time that he was in My Fair Lady, yes, he was in My Fair Lady, and he was in The African Queen opposite Humphrey Bogart. All these great old films that he was in.
Really?
Yes, Theodore Beikel was on Broadway doing thousands and thousands of shows, and he had time to stop and do voices for animation. He went and worked with Rankin and Bass and was the voice of Aragorn in 1982's The Return of the King, which is interesting to watch because it's the only adaptation of The Return of the King that has the sequence where Samwise goes up against the Watchers at the gate. The Watchers with their invisible wall right outside the gate of Cirith Ungol. Well, Peter Jackson didn't do it. Ralph Bakshi didn't do it. No other adaptation. The musical Broadway version of Lord of the Rings, they didn't do it. Nobody shows that sequence of Samwise against the evil Watchers at the gate, except Rankin and Bass. And you get to see Theodore Beikel and hear his wonderful voice as Aragorn, the king. So just a fond farewell. It seems that
Tolkien really touched. Tolkien adaptations have really touched multiple, a lot more people than we can imagine.
Yes, they have. Yes,
I mean, I was just remarking this week how many actors filmed The Hobbit 6 years ago.
Do you believe that? Gosh, time flies.
The Hobbit filmed almost six years. Well, let's see, 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 years ago, and now a lot of these actors are huge stars.
Yes.
Lee Pace, Richard Armitage, who starts this week on Hannibal.
Yes.
This Saturday night, 10 p.m.
That's right.
Richard
is
Armitage.
He playing that famous character?
Francis Dollarhide.
Francis Dollarhide?
Yes.
He is?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so
wait, doesn't he have a character name like the Butterfly Man or the Mothman? What's his character's name? The Tooth Fairy? Does he play the Tooth Fairy? That's the one. Yes. Yes, I believe that our very own Richard Armitage is going to be playing the Tooth Fairy.
And he's very naked in this episode.
Ladies, start your engines, because Richard Armitage is going to be showing his nakedness on Hannibal.
Full back tattoo. He's lean and mean. This is going to be a great episode to watch of Hannibal on Saturday at 10 p.m. Richard Armitage.
Time flies.
And talk about Lee Pace. There's only 2 more episodes left in this season of *Halt and Catch Fire*, and I tell you what, Lee Pace has a voice. I could listen to him read me the Silmarillion every day.
Lee Pace has a great voice.
His voice, his intonation, his everything about Lee Pace's vocal cords is
I know. He's giving me a bit
wonderful.
of competition in the voiceover department, that's for sure.
That man. And he's great on *Halt and Catch Fire*.
Yeah, he is.
Where he's right now, he's playing opposite the guy from Babe. What's his name? James.
That would be. Oh, come on! I know exactly who the guy from Babe is. The farmer.
Yeah.
Who was also in Star Trek: First Contact. Come on. He was also in Asylum, American Horror Story Asylum.
Was he?
Yes, of course.
So he's been doing a lot. What does Marfels? Who does Richard Armitage play in Hannibal?
James Cromwell.
James Cromwell.
James Cromwell
is playing against, and they're both super tall.
Yes.
They're both really tall people, so it's just like seeing those guys go eye to eye and toe to toe on a bunch of stuff, and just the underhandedness. Lee Pace and *Halt and Catch Fire*, such a great show. But Richard Armitage is playing the Tooth Fairy, which Hannibal helps capture.
Don't they make reference to? Yeah, Hannibal helps capture the Tooth Fairy in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah,
right.
No, he had, in *Silence of the Lambs*. I think they had caught.
They had already caught him, and they speak about having caught him.
They speak about having caught him, and then here we have another.
Isn't that a reference to one of the earlier books?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, yeah.
The show is like it's Stanley Kubrick on television. I tell you, Hannibal's my favorite show right now.
And there it is, and it's in its last season now, which is a shame.
It's crazy to
unless it makes the move to Spike or to TNT or to some other network. Hannibal might live again in another incarnation at some other network.
I hope so.
But NBC Universal has said bye-bye.
The interesting thing is, I just realized that all my favorite shows on TV right now include Hobbit or Lord of the Rings actors, and I don't know if it's because I started watching them from the first episode because of the Hobbit actors, or because I was already interested in these shows and topics, and like, oh wow, that guy was in the Hobbit. That's a good question for the chat room. Do Hobbit and Lord of the Rings actors bring you into TV shows that you wouldn't have checked out, such as Sean Astin in The Strain?
Hello. Yeah, a lot of people miss him.
Or
they want him back in The Strain.
Martin Freeman in Fargo. Like, did Middle Earth actors bring you into TV shows that you normally wouldn't have checked out, because a lot of people refuse to check out Hannibal. They hate, they can't deal with that level of violence
and gore.
But if anyone that's a fan of Kubrick, Stanley Kubrick, this is the best of Kubrick.
I gotta check this out.
Yeah.
Also notice, you guys must have noticed this by now, that everyone's talking about Ant-Man, which was just released over the weekend, and a star turn from Evangeline Lilly, of all people, our very own Tauriel, and everyone's talking about how good she is in it with some of the other side actors.
Everyone says she's amazing in it, and the one regret that I've seen multiple people tweet about, the one regret for Ant-Man is that every male character in the movie pretty much gets to try on the ant suit, except but Evangeline Lilly never puts on the suit.
She doesn't. She doesn't. She's the only one who doesn't.
She's the only. She come on, Hollywood, give a girl a chance. But her character has places to go in the Marvel universe.
Wait, how many films did it take before Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts got to put on the Iron Man suit?
Oh my god!
It took 3 movies for her to put on the suit, so it might be a while, a few different Ant-Man appearances before Evangeline Lilly gets to put it on. Maybe she'll become Wasp. Is that the plan? Is that the ultimate plan? That's what I thought.
Evangeline Lilly has a role to play.
That's what I thought. That means she's going to be in the Infinity War, the Infinity Gauntlet War.
The Infinity War, which is going to be 2 big movies.
Okay. That means Evangeline Lilly has a future in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as much as she might have a future as Tauriel in the Middle-earth Cinematic Universe, because her character and the fate of her character, Tauriel, was left unknown at the end of Battle of the Five Armies.
I don't think Evangeline Lilly would return to Middle-earth because what we know of her relationship with the film itself, she originally signed on under Guillermo del Toro. Then she got a new script when Peter Jackson took over, and she still stayed with the production. She's like, all right, but the shooting script that they had did not include any love triangle, did not include, crying and tears. She was just the most badass elf in Mirkwood. She was the warmonger. As we see, what was his name in Lord of the Rings? Said warmonger, right?
Yeah, that would be Wormtongue, who said that to Éomer.
Yeah, and then before he gets banished, So, when it comes to Mirkwood, she was the warmonger saying, we got to fight this battle, and they're like,
no, we got to do nothing.
Yeah, and so that got completely overshadowed by this, glances from Orlando Bloom, this jealousy. So I think she's kind of turned off of, she wanted to be. Evangeline Lilly signed up for The Hobbit to be the kick-ass girl in a male society, and she doesn't even get to save herself, and so now she has an opportunity in the Marvel universe to be Wasp. I think that'd be super good. She's gonna fight. You better believe that woman, as an actress, is going to fight to be everything that she got punked out of in Middle Earth. I'm excited to see what she does.
I think that is kind of exciting for Evangeline Lilly to kind of move into that area like Hugo Weaving, to be in every big major franchise like he has been. Okay, now we need Evangeline Lilly to be in a big, awesome space epic that the Wachowskis might do, and then we need her to cross over to the Lucas universe and do a Star Wars character, and then we need her, because she's already in Middle-earth, now she's in Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that would be a great career trajectory, and since she's real good buddies with J.J. Abrams, who knows if she might appear in the Star Trek universe or in the Star Wars universe. You never know. You never know.
You know who really wants to be in Star Wars is Dominic Monaghan, who was on JJ's show Lost.
Yeah.
He really wants
Evangeline, yeah.
So, the rumors are that they're offering Benicio del Toro a role in Star Wars 8, and J.J. Abrams is not writing or directing the next any more Star Wars movies after this year. I think Dominic Monaghan is the perfect person to join the Star Wars universe.
Hell yeah, absolutely.
Like he's just got something charming. You know, if they did a young Han Solo movie, Dominic Monaghan.
Do you think Dom could pull off a young Han Solo?
Do you guys think so?
That's an interesting idea. That would be a bit of stunt casting. That could work.
They've officially said that the next offshoot of the Star Wars movies is going to be a Han Solo movie.
But if they go like young Han Solo, are they going to do like teenage year? Like
no one knows. It's just going to be a Han Solo story.
Like, is he going to be like high school age, young Han Solo?
Well, the interesting thing about casting Dominic Monaghan is that there's a lot of tall actors.
Yeah.
That they could cast as Chewie that aren't David Baxter 8 feet tall, because Dominic Monaghan himself is, you know,
he's 5'8" or 5'9".
You know,
he's 5'9".
So it's easier to cast Chewbacca.
Yeah.
You know,
you have a shorter actor.
If you have a shorter actor.
Oh, what about the other actors?
It's fine.
I love this. I love this man and his ideas. I just love your ideas.
I want to see Dominic Monaghan as Han Solo.
I think that'd be super cool. But I am suddenly reminded of how young a really, really young River Phoenix was playing the young Indiana Jones. When they did that side project of young Indiana Jones, it wasn't Indiana Jones in his 20s. It was Indiana Jones as a 16-year-old. And that's not Dominic. He's not going to play a 16-year-old. You know what I mean?
It doesn't have to be 16 years old.
I'm just saying we don't know how young they're going to make this character be. Well, look at how young Jake Lloyd was when he was playing young Anakin.
No,
all right, we jumped from an 11-year-old or maybe 10 years old to full-grown Anakin when he was like 17.
You know, I'm glad you bring Jake Lloyd up, baby Anakin.
I wonder what he looks like these days.
You know, for the last 3 years, I've been comparing the Star Wars prequels to the Hobbit movies.
That's what he looks like today?
The Lord of the Rings prequels. Because there are so many truisms. There's so many, like, one-to-one comparisons. All the mistakes that George Lucas made with the Star Wars prequels, the same mistakes were made with Peter Jackson and the Hobbit prequels. From the production aspect of changing the script in between to shooting everything digitally and doing more CG than ever.
Yeah.
But I tell you, one of the big things about Star Wars that totally ruined the whole canon of Star Wars was the idea that this princess, this Queen Amidala, not even a princess, Queen Amidala, who's 20-something, looks like.
Yeah.
Would fall in love with this 8-year-old Jake Lloyd. Now, the second and third movies, I understand that. You know, you had more. They look like equals, but the fact that this girl would have been a babysitter to this young Anakin.
She nearly was. In episode 1, she was in danger of being a babysitter to Jake Lloyd, but that was what Liam Neeson was doing. Liam Neeson was babysitting him.
But the queen falls in love with this halfling.
No, wait. 10 years later, the first thing she says in Attack of the Clones is, "My, you've grown," and that was the only statement. That's the only statement that we get in dialogue where there's this obvious reference to the fact that she's observing him as a grown man.
Yeah, but there's still. Come on.
But that's not enough. It was not enough.
Any kid that you're young enough to babysit.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's weirdness.
That's weird. There's weirdness there.
But
so
how old?
The same exact mistake was made in the Hobbit movies when you have this grown elf falling for a halfling. I mean, it's almost like Peter Jackson just looked at all the Star Wars prequels and like, let's do everything George Lucas did. Oh, the Queen, this badass, awesome female leading figure falls in love with a pint-sized halfling. Like, they did the same exact thing.
That is not exactly the same thing. That is such a reach. Dude, okay, I agree with the canonical problems of having Padme
fall in love with someone that she could have babysat.
She didn't fall in love with him at 8 years old. When she met him a decade later, he wasn't 8, he was 18.
It's still...
And that's when she met him, okay?
And she's
that's
supposed
when
to
she
be
fell in love with him.
30-something then?
Now, that was what was really, really weird, was that she didn't age. There was no discernible age difference between Padme on Tatooine, you know, visiting with Shmi Skywalker and a young baby Anakin, and then in Attack of the Clones, does she look any older?
She looks younger.
They dress her in this outfit with this leather bustier with her boobs out, you know.
Yeah.
They dress her in a more suggestive and sexualized way.
But by the time you're 30,
that's the only thing that we could tell that Padme, or Amidala, if you will, had gone from where she was as a teenager, and now she's 10 years older. She's a grown woman herself. They did not handle it properly. I'm in agreement with you that in Star Wars, I'm in violent agreement with you that they did not handle that piece of the narrative properly.
They
did
Star
Wars
the same
films.
Mistakes as this, like in the Hobbit. Like
well, I didn't see those mistakes in the Hobbit.
Ariel was not supposed to fall for this dwarf like on first sight, and she basically does. You know, it was
she was just intrigued by him at first, and then she found herself actually wondering, and she found herself not even being aware of what was going to go on with her feelings with Keeley, until Thranduil pulled the rug out from under her and said, I know that my son is staring at you and likes you all the time, but you're not going to get anywhere with him, so back off. And as soon as Thranduil did that and told her, I'm not going to ever give permission for my son to go on a date with you, then she started opening up a little bit and started talking more to Keeley. So Thranduil was the factor that made Tariel's character start talking to Keeley a little bit more in earnest, to tell you the truth. But anyways,
it's all a convoluted mess that shouldn't even have been added, and yeah.
Well, anyways,
but I think Dominic Monaghan would be a great addition to the Star Wars universe.
I would love that.
And I think he's got the type of like rambunctiousness that he could pull off a Han Solo.
You think?
Character, or that type of character, if they do a Han Solo movie and then like he's in that mix of, you know, questionable criminals, you know, on the living
questionable criminals
living on the
watch them cast Andrew Garfield or something stupid like that.
Oh,
they will.
Gosh.
They will.
No, he's done. Spider-Man.
I know that version of Spider-Man is done, but I'm telling you, when it comes to casting the young Han Solo, don't be surprised that instead of going to a total, you know, newcomer, it should maybe go to a newcomer we've never ever seen and never heard of. That might be cool. That might be kind of cool.
It needs to just go with someone that can fill that role.
Someone who can really do it. I bet you they're going to make the mistake and put somebody in there who should not be in the role. Do you know one of the reasons why I no longer recommend that Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, should ever be watched by a newbie? When a newbie gets introduced to Star Wars, you tell them to watch in this order. Tell them to watch Episode 4 and 5, and then to flashback and do an Anakin story in Episodes 2 and 3, and then flash forward again to see Luke and Anakin resolve their story in Episode 6. That's what you do. You skip Episode 1 entirely. So you don't have to deal with that awkwardness of Natalie Portman meeting a 8-year-old Jake Lloyd. You don't even have to deal with that awkward crap. It's just not there.
Yeah.
But anyways, Jake Lloyd grew up, and he looks like this now. He looks like a hipster with a...
he doesn't want to act anymore. You know,
I can tell why he doesn't want to act anymore.
He was trying to... they wanted him
Is
for
that his mugshot?
Ender's Game. Because they were trying to do Ender's Game right when Star Wars was in post-production.
That was a disaster.
And then they lost funding for Ender's Game, and then the effects company that was signed on to do Ender's Game decided to fund a movie themselves.
Yeah.
And you know, when it comes to Hollywood, you never use your own money. And the effects company went out of business because Ender's Game just wasn't that good.
They did? They went completely out of business after Ender's Game was released? Because they blew it all on that. Did you know that there was a huge boycott against Ender's Game because of the author, Orson Scott Card, and some of his really nasty, crazy remarks, and audiences were just not with him, and they boycotted the film. And that's why at Comic-Con, when the producers were trying to promote Ender's Game, starring Harrison Ford and Ben Kingsley, of all people, the producers of Ender's Game were trying to distance themselves completely by saying none of our money is going to Orson Scott Card. None of our efforts are involving him. We're doing this without him. That's unusual. That's unusual for filmmakers to distance themselves from their original source author that way. It wouldn't work with George R.R. Martin. The HBO show would never want to distance themselves from him. But it was an interesting little episode that happened. So,
you know, there's another example of not only did the effects company put all their money into Ender's Game, and then it turned into that movie, and that company's out of business; it doesn't exist anymore.
That's a shame.
But Weta has put their money into the new Thunderbirds show.
Yes, they have. That's going to be exciting. Thunderbirds are go.
And I'm curious about the Thunderbirds show from Weta.
Are you?
Yeah. Like it can go two ways. They're either going to it's going to be like the old show and not connect with younger audiences, or it's going to be too much like the old show and not connect with the old people. That's a tricky show to reboot
because it's marionettes
and they're very close to the original designs. See,
yes, they are.
Ninja Turtles was smart. They redesigned everything from scratch.
Yes.
You know, anytime any cartoon that has had a reboot in recent years, they get a whole new redesign because it just has to connect with the audiences right now.
Yeah, but Team America, from the comedy spoof of Thunderbirds, from South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker, that was a huge hit. That was a really huge hit.
Yeah.
Why? Because there were marionette puppets doing dirty things in that movie. That's why it was.
And they had the Oscar-winning cinematographer from Gladiator shooting that movie.
They did? Really? All those miniatures and puppets were shot by the Gladiator director of photography?
The guy that shot Gladiator
for Ridley Scott.
Won an Oscar for it.
Wow.
When it shot.
You think?
The marionette movie for. So it's curious to see what they're going to do with Thunderbirds.
Well, I am very curious about Thunderbirds for the nostalgia factor, if nothing else, and also the point that you make is a very cogent point. For once, you're making a cogent point. How is an old-fashioned style of animated puppets and marionette and miniature work, how's that going to latch into the marketplace today with today's audiences? It's going to be an interesting trick to find that audience.
I'm not too worried about that because Robot Chicken is like the biggest thing, and that's claymation.
But really, really funny parody comedy.
Yeah,
they parody everything.
It's all in the writing.
Yeah, it's great writing.
It's claymation. It's as claymation as you get, but it's got great writing. And
do you know what?
I hope the Thunderbirds have that. You know, I really enjoyed Jane and the Dragon, Weta's other TV show.
The other kids show they did? Yeah, that's adorable. That's a really adorable show.
Speaking of dragons, did you hear there's a new dragon coming out?
A new dragon?
We've got Pete's Dragon coming out.
The remake of Disney,
yeah. Which Weta has signed up for.
Yes. That's cool.
Who else is in it? Pete's Dragon has Aylmer.
Carl Urban?
Carl
Urban's going to be in the new Pete's Dragon? I didn't know that.
Signed up for Pete's Dragon.
Oh, that's so cool.
Disney just announced that the Sword in the Stone
really
is going to be made into a live-action film, and boy, oh boy, have we seen a wizard with a pointy hat and a big gray beard before?
Yes, we have. That's Merlin and his wonderful song. What's his wonderful song? Triska. What is it? It's he sings that song in Sword in the Stone, where he animates all the teapots and the dishes and the kettle, and they're flying around the room, and he's trying to teach young Arthur.
No.
It is very similar to the Cinderella song Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. It's Prestidigitodium. That's the song he sings. See here, Sugar Bowl, you're getting too rough. Poor old tea set's cracked enough. Hoo-hoo! Remember that? Remember Merlin singing Prestidigitodium?
I loved that movie.
Sword in the Stone is great. But who's going to play Mad Madam Mim, who turns into a great big pink speckled dragon? when they have their little wizards
right.
duel. The wizards
Yeah.
duel between Mim and Merlin are the funniest, coolest thing. So Disney, you're telling me, is going to continue its process of live actioning all of its animated classics.
I'm all in for it.
A la Maleficent.
So who would play
Beauty,
Merlin?
new Beauty and the Beast live action, Maleficent live action. So next it'll be Sword in the Stone live action. Then what? Who should
play Merlin?
So they're going to have a Jungle Book. They're doing the live action Jungle Book.
Yep.
Two competing versions of Jungle Book. One sticking to the Disney version, directed by Jon Favreau, I believe. Is that right? Another one directed and created by our own Andy Serkis, which is based on the original Rudyard Kipling
Which I heard got put
novel.
on hold.
How could that get put on hold?
It just got put on hold.
You're kidding.
Because that Jungle Book
Wow.
was announced before Disney's Jungle Book. And I don't know.
That sounds like development hell is about to happen.
Yeah.
With those projects. Oh man, that's very weird. Very weird.
Carl
I
Urban
didn't realize that they were going to do
in Pete's Dragon.
that. Carl Urban.
Wait, you know what's
Dragon?
funny is that we made that T-shirt with Smaug's eye because Peter Jackson's dragon.
Pete's Dragon. I remember that.
So we had this wonderful shirt 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Before we had seen the full dragon in Desolation of Smaug, it was Pete's Dragon, and then come to find out that Weta and Carl Urban are signed up for Pete's Dragon, the actual remake.
Oh, that's brilliant.
We're ahead of the game.
That's brilliant. All right. Aside from this conversation about Weta's new films, and
Sword in the Stone.
Weta's
Weta
new
needs to
project.
make that sword.
that would be fucking great. Pardon my French, but that really would be great if Weta or Richard Taylor's team helped design the Peter Sword King, right?
Yeah.
Isn't he?
He was at Comic-Con this year, Peter.
Peter Sword King was the guy who did all the wigs.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but he has the word sword in his name. That reminds me of him. We're talking about Peter Lyon.
Lion.
Yeah, Peter
Yeah.
Lyon, who did Sting and Orcrist and Glamdring and the designs of these swords.
Can you imagine the stone with the
Yeah.
sword sticking out?
Yeah.
Just.
I bet you that Excalibur should be fantastic.
Oh,
it should be
it is
fantastic.
Excalibur, isn't it?
It is the Excalibur, and that's why
Oh,
Wart,
this is franchise.
Wart, the little boy who is young Arthur, his nickname was Wart. Remember? Wart. Hey, I'm not so sure about the wisdom behind Disney doing these live action versions of all their animated classics.
You know who would make
I'm not
a
so
great
sure about
Wart?
that. But what?
Bane, son of Bard.
Oh, you mean John Bell?
Yeah,
Yeah. Really?
I think so. Don't you guys think like Bane's son as
You mean Bard's son, Bane?
Bard's son,
Yes.
who helped kill the dragon?
Yes. He did. He helped kill a dragon.
Like, it's been a couple years since they shot that. He could totally be, by the time they get into production on Sword and Stone next year, he would totally be the right age to pull the sword from the stone.
John Bell could make a pretty cool young Arthur, a really young Arthur. Hey, you know what we were talking about 6 minutes ago about young Han Solo and the casting? I would be a proponent for Dominic Monaghan before anybody to have him as a young Han Solo. But the most aggressive rumors on the internet is that would be either Garrett Hedlund,
From Tron?
Garrett Hedlund, yeah,
From Tron
from Tron
2.
Legacy, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt. The strongest rumors out there for the young Han Solo are currently either
I hope not.
Garrett Hedlund.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt
Look.
is not the right person.
Look, you don't think Garrett Hedlund could be a young Han Solo? He could.
No.
He really
yes,
could.
he
Look at
does.
that.
That's 5 years ago. He doesn't look like that anymore.
Are you kidding?
You know,
That's so not 5 years ago.
Weta also showed off. Weta won Comic-Con, and one of the reasons is they did Legendary's Warcraft movie. They did
Yes.
all the armor and all the swords for Warcraft, and they were on display. We saw the actual armor and swords that Weta made for Warcraft, and
Cool.
And if you go to and they had these at Comic-Con. They're little cardboard things with lenses in it. You put you download the app, the Legendary app. You put it in here. It velcros
Close it with
together.
your phone in it.
And now you can look at
that's
everything
cool.
Weta did
Yeah?
in Warcraft. You're on an eagle and you're flying around and you can see everything.
Really?
And
step into our world. This is so cool.
The crazy thing is that Weta is doing Warcraft. They're doing anything with swords and monkeys, basically. Good for them. You know what? You should check this out. Let me pull this app.
I will check this out because I think this is kind of super neat.
So it's a free app. You go to Legendary app. They've got Crimson Peak thing.
Was this a free giveaway, or did this cost something to buy this?
No, it's all free. It's a Google Cardboard. There's a Google logo on the bottom.
Yeah, I see the Google Cardboard.
And it's basically a cheap Oculus Rift.
This is the cheap version of Oculus Rift. Am I going to be able to see this without my contact
Do you
lenses
have
in?
yeah.
I guess I should put my regular eyeglasses on.
No.
No? Really? Okay, this is cool. I got to check this out.
Watch
This
this.
is the first time me seeing this.
So we're looking at.
Oh wow, cool.
Look around.
Oh, you can look and see. There's snow all around. Holy cow, there's the moon in the sky. Are you serious? Oh my gosh, we're going inside the house now. Wow, but you know what? This is out of focus. I do need to put my glasses on. It's completely... This is cool! Wow, this is superiorly cool! You can actually look and see the hallway. You can see the lamps. Look, if I look behind me, I can see the doorway behind me. Whoa.
This is your future of entertainment.
This is wicked cool.
Everyone's going to be watching movies and games on
Holy cow, there's evil creatures coming out of the floor.
Oculus Rift. This is basically what you're going to look like in 10 years at the movie theater. You're going to rent a headset and you're going to watch this movie with everybody else. This is how everyone's going to look.
Crimson Peak. Oh, this is an advertisement for Crimson Peak. Beware, October 2001. I gotta say, that was so super wicked cool. I've never seen anything like that before. Beware. So, I feel like I should just be kicking myself for not getting one of these
At Comic-Con.
at Comic-Con. This can be used with anything that they put on the app.
Warcraft.
Crimson Peak, anything
Guillermo del Toro's
okay,
movies.
so badass. That is so cool. All right,
This is Google Cardboard.
that's Google Cardboard, and this
That's
is
just
what's
an
really
app.
being shown. Whoa! See, look at this. When we turn it around, there's nothing else there, but it does replicate being in a three-dimensional space. And there's the picture. Beware, Crimson Peak, right there.
One for each eye.
One for each eyeball.
So yeah, that's
so cool.
That's
so wicked.
So the cool thing is that Weta.
I can't imagine.
Weta not only did the real swords and real armor that we actually physically touched
Yeah?
in person, but Weta is also making these augmented reality experiences, and Richard Taylor is an investor in Magic Leap, which is like the next generation of Oculus and
Yeah.
Google Cardboard.
Yeah.
So there's a Google logo on it. So Weta is literally at the forefront of augmented reality, making those experiences. Now, can you imagine? Here's the rumor:
Wow.
is that
So cool.
in 5 to 10 years,
Yeah?
because they made The Hobbit all digital,
Yeah.
and they shot the whole thing on green screen,
Yeah.
is that they'll be able to release the Hobbit version just like you just saw. So
In that way.
in that
So
way,
that you could digitally turn around and just see yourself in that world?
so the camera still is on the track and you're still walking with the dwarves, and
Yeah.
the movie is as it is,
Yeah.
but you can look around. And
That is the most badass thing ever. Okay, that's super cool.
so you could still
Okay.
You saw how in this Crimson Peak thing that it was on rails. You didn't control the camera, like it kept moving you forward.
Yes.
It stopped when it needed to. It
Yes.
cut to something when it needed to.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with movies. So because they made The Hobbit all digital, everything was digital. Even like the when they were running away from wargs, you know, on the sled of bunnies, like everything's digital. So you can imagine, like, you'll be able to look around. So you can watch the sled with Radagast over there, but then you can look over here and see the orcs running toward him.
Oh, the infamous scene number 88.
Yeah.
The one that went on and on and on forever, that big chase sequence. Wow, that's pretty cool.
So, does that make you more interested in more Hobbit stuff?
Yeah, that makes me more interested in more of everything. This is what I was trying to talk. I've been talking to everybody who will listen that we're going to soon see a hybrid or a hybridization between passive films where we just sit as an audience and watch the film, and augmented reality and video game interface, where these worlds are going to blend, and we'll be interacting instead of being passive. With our own movies, we'll be interacting with them in a whole new way.
So let me tell you,
that's the future. This is the wave of the future.
This is the future. Not only that,
it is, and it's here now.
I've
it's
actually seen the next generation of this stuff, and Weta actually created Smaug's Horde as an augmented reality Oculus experience. So that scene where Bilbo's at the end and he's hiding from, that whole scene animated with Benedict Cumberbatch and the dragon said, and then he flames at the camera.
Yeah.
The first time you see the, the flame out of the dragon, that has been recreated completely by Weta in Google Cardboard augmented reality. So, they're already testing almost all the main scenes as augmented reality, and that's why when you watch,
seriously cool.
When you watch Battle of Five Armies, every scene, even when Bard and Bane kill the dragon, you notice how Bard and Bane are like looking at the camera, and then it cuts to the dragon looking at the camera. Well, that's going to be an augmented reality experience. You'll be able to see the entire town burning around you. You'll be able to look back. You'll be Bane, basically. In The Hobbit, you'll be in the movie. You'll be Bane looking at your father's eyes, and then looking back and seeing the dragon. Like, Weta's already doing it.
That's badass. That's extremely badass. Does it also give us hope that other films that have been shot digitally, they can also get access to those movies and those files and actually play around with those realities too?
The problem is that it's expensive, and a lot of effects companies don't do the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like when they, who did the Avengers? 22 different companies.
So they had just different pieces of different shots.
Different pieces and different shots doing everything. Weta does the whole shebang.
All in one go.
Yeah.
Wow.
So Weta is one of the few places that can actually produce these experiences. So I'm ready for a full Hobbit augmented reality experience.
What's this?
To press the button if you have an Android phone or a Google phone.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, this is so cool. I'm impressed. I'm not that often impressed, but this time I am. I'm very, very impressed. That's so cool, because it brings it down to a dirt cheap level. The effect of getting it without having to buy $350 Oculus Rift glasses to do it.
Mm-hmm. The cheap version is Google Cardboard, which is a piece of cardboard with a couple lenses and your own phone.
I gotta get one of these off of eBay.
And then
the
most expensive version is Magic Leap, which is a whole thing.
Yeah.
So
fascinating, really fascinating.
Yeah, it's so this is what we're talking about. We're saying, what is the future of Tolkien fandom? Is it documentaries about Tolkien? Is it feature film about Tolkien himself? Is it more Middle-earth special edition movies? Is it more Middle-earth films? Or is it
taking the existing films that were digital and creating a new augmented reality version of them?
So if Warner Brothers says, you know what, we've got rights to everything in the appendices, and they only have budget to make one thing, should Warner Brothers make more Middle-earth movies, or should they retool, spend the same money making an augmented reality version of The Hobbit?
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm more interested in seeing new films and new shows. Okay, the augmented reality version is going to come along as a side project, anyways. But
it costs just as much.
I don't want them to stop. The idea that we could meet a young Aragorn and have Orlando Bloom come back as Legolas, and that those two characters could meet, start their friendship, and we could deal with the hunt for Gollum and all these interesting things that happen in the appendix. I want to see that. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
But I don't want them to abandon doing the augmented reality version of The Hobbit. They shouldn't abandon that.
There's only so much. Like because
they made $1 billion each film. There is not only so much money to go around. They got plenty of money to go around.
Look, they still, they're still whatever.
I'm just saying. All right.
Warner Brothers isn't paying for any more extended edition. Like Peter Jackson's funding everything else from here on out.
All right.
Himself.
That's probably true.
He's also making a Hobbit house under his house.
Under his own home. Well, let's ask you guys. Would you rather see augmented reality version of The Hobbit, which was all shot digitally and in high frame rate, super high resolution
digital? Because you need the high frame rate
to support the Google specs.
This stuff only works at high frame rate. Otherwise, it breaks down.
You're right. It does. It would. That makes sense to me. So there was another technical reason why Peter used the Red Epic cameras to shoot at high frame rate. Okay. What do you guys? Do you want to see more Middle-earth TV or Middle-earth anthology TV series or Middle-earth films in the MECU?
Because they actually have rights to make more movies.
Remember, MECU, Middle-earth Cinematic Universe.
Or would you want to see the same movies that you just saw in augmented reality? And so
we should put a Facebook poll up and actually start asking people what they'd want to see.
But you can't. People have to experience this to fully appreciate it.
Yes, if you haven't experienced that,
you can't just send them to a YouTube video and say, "Hey, wouldn't this be cool?" Like, no. You have to get your thing on your face.
Indeed. Well, I'm more interested in talking about the casting of young Aragorn. When that movie comes around and they actually do it, when they do it...
I don't think they'll do it unless the Han Solo movie is a home run.
You were talking for 7 minutes or 8 minutes about young Han Solo and who you'd like to see. Now let's talk about who we would like to see as young Aragorn.
We just talked about that a couple weeks ago.
I want to see Garrett Hedlund come and play young Aragorn.
No way.
Yeah, he'd be great.
He's too emo.
No, he's not. He looks like a younger version of Viggo Mortensen. I think that'd be great. Who would be able to do a younger Aragorn? Anybody in the chat room? Anybody have any ideas?
I don't know.
This is what Marful says. Marful says, at this point, Cliff, anything. TV or movies, just keep them coming in any form. Appreciate that.
See,
in any format.
A lot of fans will debate that, especially on our Facebook, where every time we post anything that alludes to more Middle Earth, they're just like, I don't want any more. I don't want to. I hated The Hobbit, even though I made $1 billion and I still bought the DVD. I hated it. Like,
yeah, there's still a lot of fans who still complain about The Hobbit, but if the Hobbit films had come out first, before Lord of the Rings, nobody would have been complaining. The movies all fit together, 6 movies of a piece.
Yes.
But granted, the quality of the work that you're getting in The Hobbit is not quite as specifically focused in the adaptation department, and the writing is a little bit different, and we have this. A lot of fans want to just jettison the entire Keeley Tariel dwarf elf interracial romance. Jettison that out the window. A lot of fans want to get rid of that and pretend it never existed.
Esme in the chat room says, is there really that much demand for a young Han Solo movie? I don't think so. I think it's a bad call, and I hope they cancel the movie at some point.
Really? Really? You're the only Star Wars fan I've ever heard say that you think it's a bad idea.
Why mess with perfection? Han Solo is perfect. He is legend at this point. Why would you even risk affecting that character?
They had baby Muppets, they've had baby Smurfs, they've had baby Han Solo, baby Indiana Jones, and they're going to do baby version of anybody else that wants to come along.
No, it's
just what it is.
I don't like it.
They're always doing like kids versions of older characters that we've seen. They always do that. They do it all the time. What do you think? I mean, what do you think? What world do we live in?
I think they're
That's what they're going to do. You think it's a bad idea? Why?
Because Han Solo is a perfect character, and anything more is going to potentially negatively affect it. It's kind of how people feel about The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings made $1 billion and won all the Oscars.
And won every Oscar.
The Hobbit comes around, a fully capable movies, made $1 billion, and people say it tarnishes the legacy of Lord of the Rings films. That's what I mean. Like, even at their most successful, The Hobbit couldn't be more successful than it is. $1 billion, $1 billion. Period.
And, $3 billion in a row.
$3 billion in a row.
Yep.
You literally couldn't get any more successful than The Hobbit. What The Hobbit did,
Yeah.
and people still feel that it tarnished the Lord of the Rings. So why risk any potential anything for the rest? Like, it just is. Look, there's no more Lord of the Rings toys. There's no Hobbit toys. There's nothing. There's nothing to relish in Tolkien fandom as far as merchandising anymore. The Hobbit spoiled, tainted the well so deeply that there's nothing to enjoy anymore. There's nothing that we can spend our money on. We can't buy Hobbit bed sheets. There's no costumes to buy at Halloween. There's nothing. That's how negatively it impacted it. Even though it made $1 billion, The Hobbit ruined Tolkien in the marketplace. And by doing a Han Solo movie,
I can't agree with that, because
the Han Solo movie could ruin half the genius about Star Wars. You know, that whole Rebel Runner.
Look, we've been exploring in the TV show Gotham young Bruce Wayne's life, and it's excellent, and it supports the existing mythology that's in the DC Comics universe. It can be done well, it can be done properly, just as likely as it can be done like crap. It can be good.
Armie Hammer would be a great Han Solo.
Armie Hammer, who played the Lone Ranger opposite Johnny Depp in the very, very expensive and disastrous Disney remake of... Well,
it's good.
It was financially disastrous. Whether it was good or not, it was still a financial disaster.
It's better than people give it credit for.
Probably. I mean, I love the director, Gore Vidal. He's great. Not Gore Vidal, but Gore Verbinski. Yeah. Wrong Gore. Gore Verbinski, the director of Pirates of the Caribbean movies. But yeah, Armie Hammer would be great as a young Han Solo. But no, they're not going to ruin it. They're not going to totally ruin it.
The same can be said about The Hobbit. They've ruined everything Tolkien in the marketplace, even though it made $1 billion.
Ruined everything in the marketplace?
There's nothing Lord of the Rings or Hobbit in the marketplace right now. I cannot go to any store and buy any bed sheets or any costumes or any toys or playing cards or Hobbit video games. There's just nothing.
Just the Hobbit Lego game. The Hobbit Lego game,
and that's Lego.
And extensions of Shadow of Mordor. The BAFTA award-winning Shadows of Mordor.
The Hobbit poisoned the well, even though it was successful. So if they made a Han Solo movie,
that's an interesting concept, but I don't know if
Han Solo movie could still make $1 billion, but it risks affecting all futures. The legacy, it risks negatively impacting the legacy of that character. That's a risk I don't think they should take. I'm all for more Star Wars movies. I love the idea of their first spin-off movie, which is how the rebels got the Death Star plans. These ancillary characters, but not. I don't need to be told where Han Solo came from.
Michael Fassbender and the other characters who came in to do early X-Men characters in First Class, Days of Future Past, that didn't ruin the X-Men franchise. They built it all together. They put it all together. It was cool. You know, it can be done well. I'm just saying that when we get a movie with a young Aragorn meeting a Legolas, and they go on the hunt for Gollum, and if they do it well, it could be crap. We don't know. It's just as likely it could be really, really, really good. We have yet to wait and see. Fingers crossed. I mean, you know, we had our hopes up for Aragon, but because Jeremy Irons was cast in it, and we thought all these great people were going to be in it, and it ended up being junk. So you never know. It's just as likely one way or the other. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that the Hobbit movies have quote-unquote poisoned the well so much that Warner Brothers is going to sniff somewhere else to make the next $1 billion when they've got it all cinched up in the sack, ready to go with the next product they bring out? Whether it's a TV show or a film version, Middle-earth Cinematic Universe has not been poisoned so completely
totally.
by the success of The Hobbit.
It totally has.
Look, they had...
You cannot go anywhere and buy anything Middle-earth right now.
But an issue, it's an unrelated issue. The complications
totally
they had
related.
with the licensing and marketing and the licensing of toys.
Totally related.
The licensing was screwed up by the decision to change from 2 movies to 3 movies. That's what ruined all the licensing and the toy fair and the development of the action figures and changes of one character to another character where they would pull toys off the market and then bring them back out a year later. All of that was because Peter changed his mind from 2 to 3 movies. That's the only reason why the licensing and the toys for Hobbit went screwy.
No, why didn't we get a Risk Battle of 5 Armies? Like, if anything was meant to happen, Risk, the board game Risk, with a Battle of 5 Armies theme.
Well,
it's
they'd already used up that license a number of years ago to make the Lord of the Rings version of Risk.
I know, like that's what I'm saying. The negative reaction to the first Hobbit movie. You know, go to Rotten Tomatoes, see what it gets. Like, even though these things make $1 billion,
and Rotten Tomatoes, the highest rated of the 3 Hobbit films, is An Unexpected Journey.
So it's just
from what I remember,
it poisoned the well.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. This is an interesting shot. TheOneRing.net, you tweeted this. Orlando Bloom putting in his Legolas contacts. Oh wow, that was like from the 21st. You posted that yesterday.
Today, no, this
yesterday.
morning.
All right, how about that? Wow. Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Orlando Bloom putting on his fake contact lenses. Remember Dune, when they didn't wear contact lenses, they digitally colored the eyes of the Fremen to be blue within blue?
Really?
So when Max von Sydow shows up, his eyes are blue within blue, and Patrick Stewart, everybody, all their eyes were digitally colored blue within blue, and it looks kind of sloppy. They should have just done weird contact lenses. And Kyle MacLachlan, bless his heart, he doesn't get those eyes colored blue until the very end of the film, the last shots of the film. But I'm a Dune fan on the side. I'm intrigued. I'm always intrigued by the possibilities of what the marketplace will bear. And when it comes to the raw appetite of geek fans and geek culture, all of us together, our appetite can be ravenous. It really can be for things that we want. That's why we have the success of Arrow on TV and The Flash on TV and Gotham on TV, because DC is spreading its Hydra-like tentacles out in everything they possibly can do on television format. And they're getting ready to beef up all these film appearances with Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot, who's going to be really interesting as Wonder Woman, now with Henry Cavill returning as Superman. But I'm telling you something, the marketplace will bear a lot. The success of Ant-Man over this past weekend shows that we
There's
still
nothing else to watch at the box office.
What are you kidding? Everyone is thinking, oh, Marvel is getting us to the point of marketplace exhaustion with all these superhero films, but there's not. Ant-Man and its box office returns show, even very quickly on the heels of Age of Ultron, that the marketplace will bear a lot. And it's quite flexible. It's not going to collapse on itself yet.
Not collapsing on itself, but it doesn't mean that there's a lot of nobody's going out and buying Ant-Man toys.
Are there Ant-Man toys available to be bought?
Are there Hobbit toys?
I'm going to go to I'm going to the Target store after I leave here, because there's one right down the road on Santa Monica Boulevard. And I'm going to go check in the toy department and see what kind of Ant-Man Marvel related toys are there.
Here's what I predict will happen. Warner Brothers did The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit.
Yeah.
And while The Hobbit was being made, Legendary was partnered with Warner Brothers. Now Legendary's at Universal.
Yes.
And Legendary did Jurassic World. They're rebooting all the monster movies. They're doing a new Frankenstein movie.
I didn't see Legendary's logo in front of Jurassic World.
It was?
You saw it?
Yeah, go watch it again. I watched it 4 times.
Oh, okay. So Legendary's logo is there.
So they're not at Warner Brothers anymore.
All
Warner Brothers is doing Justice League. They're doing a whole slate of Wonder Woman and Aquaman.
Yes.
And Batman and Superman.
And it will ultimately lead to Black Panther and Cyborg in later phase. Yeah.
Panthers in Marvel.
I meant to say not Black Panther. I'm sorry. I meant to say Cyborg and one of the other characters. Forgive me. I didn't mean to get DC and Marvel confused. Sorry about that.
Warner Brothers, you know, everyone's kind of like, Superman was all right, but it's not like.
You mean Man of Steel?
Oh my God, yeah. So what I predict is Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice comes out next year. If it underperforms, and if one DC Comics movie underperforms, we're gonna get more Hobbit. We might get a Hunt for Gollum, but it will take the failure of Aquaman. It will take a failure of DC, because here's what happens: Warner Brothers, they have a big bucket of money at the start of every year. Mm-hmm. You know, they're like, all right, we've got $500 million this year. We're going to spend $100 million here, $100 million there. You make that, you make that. So would they get to like 2017 or 18, and they look at like, okay, DC, let's see, The Hobbit made $1 billion, but Aquaman made half of that. So if we make The Hunt for Gollum, we're going to make another $1 billion. I think that it's going to take DC to fail to get more Hobbit movies.
You think? No, I don't agree. I think that they're going to try to develop all those franchises simpatico. They're gonna develop those franchises to go out and work, not together, not in tandem, but I mean, Warner Brothers is not going to lose the chance to let fall to the wayside any franchise that is worth $1 billion with a B.
New Tolkien
They're not going to let it fall
on
to the wayside.
DC's hands. That's what I'm saying. There's a single source of financing. The Warner Brothers, all the Lord of the Rings stuff is now in-house. It's not at New Line. It's in-house at Warner Brothers. So when Warner Brothers is deciding what $100 million to spend, right now they're all in on DC Universe, Dawn of Justice, Justice League, Batman, Superman, Aquaman.
The Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, yeah.
Suicide Squad is the first big side project, which is not specifically Justice League, but it's the villains, the side of the villains. What do you think?
I'm just saying that if you make a Hunt for Gollum movie, if you make anything Middle Earth, you're gonna get $1 billion back. If Dawn of Justice and Suicide Squad don't make $1 billion combined, you're gonna have to look at it and say, you know what? Let's tap that Middle Earth again, because Middle Earth paid for just DC movies. Middle Earth made $3 billion, and they're spending all that money on DC Universe.
The Middle Earth films and their success are now the money that Zack Snyder has to finish his. I get that. I know how the money is being shifted around, but it is not a foregone conclusion right now to say, as categorically as you seem to be saying it right now, with that certainty, it's not absolute that they're going to let one whole franchise fall away into the gutter because a different franchise underperforms. All right?
No, that's what they did. Lord of the Ring, after Lord of the Return of the King came out, there was nothing. They didn't do anything with the Middle Earth franchise. Like Warner Brothers isn't like Disney, and it's not like those companies are stewards of the brand. Shrek toys are still in stores. When was the last time we got a Shrek movie? Minions just set all animation records for animated movies. Minions just blew them all away.
Mm-hmm. Even though it was a substandard film compared to
based on a couple side characters.
Based on some side characters that had some jokes and Despicable Me.
Warner Brothers does not have the track record yet of stewarding these franchises as deeply as other studios.
I think Inside Out is still making more money than Minions.
Disney is a good steward. Paramount is a great steward of Transformers. There's video games every year. They're keeping the Transformers alive.
Okay.
So every studio,
DC Universe has only 2 films out next year: Suicide Squad and Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice.
And if they underperform,
the next 2 movies that are supposed to come after that are Wonder Woman Excuse me, Wonder Woman?
You can't even say it.
I just had a burp. Of course I can say it.
It's like Wonder Woman's getting her own movie. Wonder Woman. You burped on Wonder Woman.
I didn't mean for that to sound like that. That's funny. Look, comedy aside, excuse me for having a little hiccup. Okay, excuse me, all right. But if Suicide Squad doesn't make, and I think that Will Smith and Jared Leto as a new Joker is going to be a big, big draw for fanboys and fangirls, and it's going to be huge. I think Suicide Squad, despite its title, the title of the film is not going to get Grandma Jones to come to the theater. She's going to look at that and say, why would I go see a movie like that? But all the other kids are going to say, oh, I know who these characters are. Harley Quinn, all these great characters, you know, led by Will Smith and Jared Leto. It'll be big. But if Suicide Squad and Dawn of Justice do not do the hugest numbers, it's not Middle-earth films that are going to suffer. It's the amount of money that they're going to put into Justice League Part 1 and the standalone Wonder Woman movie. Those are scheduled for 2017. So. Those are the next two movies that are going to suffer, not the Middle-earth film. Come on, seriously. And then after that, you've got after that you've got another year to wait for The Flash. The Flash to have his own movie.
He's in the TV show.
He's in the currently hot tamales, and everyone loves the new TV show.
Yeah.
And then we've got Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not till 2018.
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like, Disney's doing well because they've siloed all of their production entities. Like Marvel Films has their own budget, like department. Right?
Yes.
Lucasfilm, Star Wars, has their own department. Pixar has its own department. Warner Brothers, like, they're just like, oh, let's make a Hobbit movie, let's make a Justice League movie. Like, it's still all in the Warner Brothers pot.
Is it?
They're all drawing from the same well.
Is Divergent also Warner Brothers and Legendary?
I don't know.
Let's find out.
I'm not up on the last Divergent.
Let's see. Film series. Divergent film series. Let me look this up.
Esme says, I kind of hate how sexy they made Wonder Woman for the new film. I think
Lionsgate.
Should have
Divergent is Summit Entertainment and Lionsgate.
Lionsgate.
Yeah. Distributed by Summit and Lionsgate. Okay, never mind. Really? You kind of hate how sexy they made Wonder Woman for the new film?
Yeah, even Aravandi in the chat room says, I've always wondered why she has to fight villains in a strapless outfit.
Do you know what? I understand what you're saying, Esme and Aravandi, but Wonder Woman is such an iconic figure, and her costume has always been strapless. Her costume has always been iconic. You don't need, you don't need to have it just be all TNA all the time, but it needs to look like she's a fighter with a fighting style who is unencumbered by heavy mail, plate mail, other things, other gauntlets and pieces that would inhibit the freedom of movement, and especially the movement and use of her golden lasso. So I think there may have just been a trend in the development of the Amazonian style of wardrobe and armory, which sticks to ancient Greek and even ancient Spartan design. I go back to 300 and look at how small they were all half naked. They weren't wearing any armor at all to protect themselves properly.
We're talking about the
ancient
DC
Greek
universe.
Armor.
We're talking about the DC universe, and if you go to the first Man of Steel movie, the first movie in the DC universe film slate,
yes,
you go to the first half of that movie with Russell Crowe and the bad guy
on Krypton.
They have more armor than has ever been seen on any Kryptonian. Like, they are stacked on armor, stacks on stacks of armor. They're more clothed than any superhero ever in the first Man of Steel. Like, so DC was already setting up to have more costume. Batman in the new thing is wearing like a straight up metal, like bomb-proof bat costume.
That's Frank Miller's design.
So what I'm like, You cannot justify
From Frank
that.
Miller's graphic novel.
You cannot justify that Wonder Woman would have less clothes in this DC universe when every single male character now has more clothes than ever before, ever in any superhero movie.
I can justify it by existing history of where these designs come from. All the designs from the animated versions of Wonder Woman, from the feature film they put out.
No, we're talking about this DC universe film.
This DC universe is consistent with what is existing in the DC universe.
All of those costumes in Man of Steel from Krypton. You're saying this fits into that? Like,
no, I'm only talking about Wonder Woman's costume design.
She's in that universe.
She is not scantily clad because she's a woman. She has less clothing because she's an Amazon, and her armor is from ancient Greek designs, which are minimalist ancient Greek design of armor. And she's from Paradise Island, where it's a subtropical island where it's always hot, and she's living in this like
they can't be keeping that
completely subtropical environment.
Be keeping that.
We don't know. That Wonder Woman standalone movie will not come out until 2017. We don't know about that storyline yet. We don't even know how Gal Gadot and her character Wonder Woman is going to be introduced. Look, I'm really, really close with Brian Azzarello, the multiple Eisner-winning writer for DC Comics, who is currently writing the Wonder Woman title. He's an old friend of mine from Chicago, and his wife Jill Thompson, who is a great illustrator for DC Comics. I have some serious research and background on my own into the Wonder Woman character. I watched the documentary about how Wonder Woman as a character was first created in the American comic books.
I just have one
I'm
question
telling you,
for you
all
then.
about this Wonder Woman mythology. You're asking the right guy, and I'm telling you, Esme Eravandi, there isn't blatant sexism at play with her costume. What's at play with her costume is a rather rigorous historical existing piece of storytelling that's in DC, in their animated features and TV shows, and now in the live action films, all connected back to the Greek mythology roots that they've pulled out for her origin story. But hey,
all right.
Wait a minute. Wait, what's this? Oh, it's a picture of the brand new Barbie doll.
My question
The new
to
Barbie
you is,
doll that was modeled by Gal Gadot has ancient Greek writing on her shield, all the way around the shield. What do you think this is? Look at this. Oh, hey, it looks like ancient. It looks like Greek to me.
Why does every other character in this DC film universe have more armor than ever except her?
I think she's got knee-high boots, and that counts as more armor than ever. Her boots are actually knee-high boots, so that counts as more armor than ever. Look, it is not a point I'm going to make 5 times, okay? Her costume...
She's from a different area, blah, blah, blah.
Wonder Woman's costume exists because she is completely... Look, her mother was Hippolyta, who was married to the god of war Ares in that timeline. Her, Ares did not give Hippolyta a daughter that she wanted, so Hippolyta went out to the sand and constructed a baby out of the soil, and with the sea waves and the power of the lightning, created her own child, and it was Diana. It was Diana, the name that comes from the ancient Greek goddess. I mean, all this stuff is Greek. Yeah, and her costume design is quite simply meant to be old classical Greek in its minimalist design. There you go. You can put any other label on it that you want about... Oh, they're just trying to, sass her up and make her look like a sexy girl.
I wish they had spent more time in the Man of Steel movie with when he was a fisherman in Alaska. That's the movie I signed up for on Man of Steel. When I saw that first trailer using Lord of the Rings music, the great overture when Gandalf falls from Fellowship of the Ring, and you saw that trailer, this is Lord of the Rings music in a trailer for a Superman movie. What is going on? But they showed him as basically Deadliest Catch.
Mm-hmm.
It was
on Deadliest Catch.
Yeah, he became the deadliest job in the world. And that's why it's called the Deadliest Catch.
That is.
That's the type of job that Superman would take as a human.
And on that oil rig, you get these gratuitous shots of the actor with his shirt off,
burning,
yeah, which is trying to show how hot he is, right? Okay, talk to me
about more of that.
About why.
No, The Deadliest Catch is on its like 10th season on television. It's that interesting. That world, that lifestyle is interesting. I wanted to see more of that.
Look, in the entire...
I also wanted his dad to live.
In the entire Immortals movie, Henry Cavill, who would later become Superman, Man of Steel, Henry Cavill has what could be called a Wonder Woman costume. When you watch the Immortals, okay, why do we get constant, like, sexy, shirtless Henry Cavill? Because, why? Maybe it's the same kind of sexism that is being alleged against the Wonder Woman costume, that we get to see nothing but skin. We want to see more skin.
No, you keep bringing up 300.
No. I'm talking about
other universes.
I'm just talking about ancient Greek mythology and the solid components of armor design.
There's
that
nothing
are in
Greek in this DC film universe
except her, and her storyline is completely. Wait, in the Marvel universe, the Thor characters are adapted from that Norse mythology. In Wonder Woman, her timeline, her relationships with people on the royal family side are all connected back to Greek gods and goddesses and Greek mythology in the DC universe. Just the same way that Marvel, you could say, cultivated or ripped off that branch of mythology from Norse mythology in Marvel. In DC, the DC writers with Wonder Woman and Diana and her story, they're quite busy riffing off of all the Greek mythology. So when you watch The Immortals and you see that Henry Cavill has no clothes on or minimal clothing, it's the same concept. He's in ancient Greece. That's the way they had their armor and their weapons. That's what it looked like. Even Mickey Rourke, in all of his semi-chubby, muscular glory, had scantily clad armor on. So there you go. Wonder Woman is dressed the way she is because comes from
nobody else is.
Because she's coming from Greek mythology. That's why. End of line. End of line.
I'll wait to see the movie, but I don't think anything Greek will have to do with this DC universe.
We won't know until 2018 or 2017, whenever she gets her separate movie. I think Wonder Woman gets her standalone film.
I wish they
2017.
I wish they had not have killed Kevin Costner. He was one of my favorite parts of that. And this concept of like Batman versus Superman and Gotham versus Metropolis, the idea that Superman, when he needed a break, he would go back and talk to his dad, and his dad would be like, you know, Mr. Iowa grounding Superman. I just think that there's something really interesting about that. That's not the DC universe.
It's Greek. It's ancient Greek. It's Wonder Woman.
It has no.
Okay, watch this. You're not buying it. Okay, all right. I love arguing fine details about geekery.
Marfels in the chat room says that I still can't recover that Justin predicts the failure of DC movies will mean more Tolkien movies.
Yeah, I don't get that either. I don't get that either.
Because at Warner Brothers, there's only one pot of film financing.
Only one pot.
At Warner Brothers, there's only one pot of money. Every year, every fiscal year, there's one pot of Warner Brothers money. So they have to choose. Let's do that. They couldn't start the DC universe while The Hobbit was going on because they had already committed to spending not only $300 million to make the movies, but $100 million each in marketing.
Well, also, they didn't start the DC universe that quickly because Man of Steel underperformed in the box office. You've got to...
That's what I'm saying. If Man of Steel underperformed, Justice League underperforms, and Suicide Squad underperforms, Warner Brothers, like, you know, it's the entertainment industry. The industry part of entertainment is going to be like, you know what? We need another Hobbit movie. We need The Hunt for Gollum so we can pay for the next 3 movies. Like, that's how Hollywood works.
Well,
stuff needs to pay for stuff.
The success of the Harry Potter franchise and all the money that was made off of the last 2 films,
more of those.
Which was Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2.
They're making 3 movies or 4 movies?
The money from Harry Potter went to The Hobbit. And if that's what you're saying, following that logic, right?
Yes.
Okay, so following the logic, if Zack Snyder tanks with Batman versus Superman, then we're not even going to get an announcement of more DC. We're going to get a sudden announcement of let's go back to the other franchise instead. Is that what you think?
I think, well, they've got more Harry Potter movies coming out. So
it's a no-brainer.
Those are going to be $100 million budgets. on their own.
Okay.
Right. And what I'm saying is that Warner Brothers is one of is a studio that all the movies that they make every year come out of one bucket. Mm-hmm. You know, one budget bucket. You know, you get 100 million, you get 200 million.
Yeah.
So that's different from Disney, which is like all Pixar funds all Pixar movies. Marvel funds all Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Marvel money doesn't go to Star Wars. You know, they all have their siloed budgets.
Yeah, that's right. I think I know what you mean.
You know, and
Well,
Disney itself, the studios make the money off the movies. Disney itself, the mouse makes its money off merchandising all of those movies from all those things. Well,
wow, really?
Warner Brothers isn't really doing that. There aren't a lot of Hobbit toys. You know, I don't know. Of all the brands that Warner Brothers owns, DC Universe, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, can you go to Target right now and see what's on the shelf? I don't think there will be a lot of Warner Brothers properties on the shelf compared to everything else. Anyway,
that's a very, very interesting concept. Very interesting concept. Oh, hey, notifications coming in. All kinds of interesting notifications coming in today.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is what we have to look forward to. Yeah, I'm most excited about augmented reality Hobbit.
So am I.
I think Weta should release this Dragon's Horde experience. It exists. It's already done. If they released it on Google Cardboard, so you know you can. The other thing I think is that when Oculus Rift becomes an actual thing that you can buy for your kids at Christmas, I think the built-in game, when you buy Oculus Rift, like the thing that will come with it is the Smaug experience.
Yes.
You know, I think it'll be, you know, just like when you buy a Nintendo, you get a Mario game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I think that's what's going to happen with Oculus Rift. You'll get more Smaug, and Hobbit fans, because there's no other merchandise around. You know, it's be like, well, since there's no bed sheets and no toys and no play swords to buy,
right?
You know, I might as well buy an Oculus Rift because then we can play with Smaug anytime you want and keep the kids happy in the back seat. We
got the plastic dwarven throwing axe. We got plastic swords. We got
from
plastic.
The first movie, there wasn't any merchandise.
From the third film?
From the second or third film.
That's because they screwed up all the licensing.
There's
by
no
switching
dragon. Zero dragon merch.
Zero. Yeah, that is a bit weird, isn't it?
Anyway,
Smaug toys.
We're out of time. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Tuesday, 5 p.m. Pacific, live at theonering.net/live. You can find this on YouTube after the fact. Once in a while, when we have an interesting episode, we'll put it up on iTunes as a podcast. Look for the One Ring Podcast, which you should subscribe to. And we're here at Meltdown Comics. If you're ever in LA, come to Meltdown Comics, the biggest little comic book store in the West.
Yes. Bye, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I love to argue the ephemera of geeky details with my co-host.
I'm going to turn this thing off.
He's not frustrated. He's awesome. Thank you.
I'm going to turn this thing off.
Thank you for giving us something to talk about. Quite interesting. But if you want to check out more details, look at the new Mattel Barbie doll of Wonder Woman.
How did we get to Barbie again?
Because on her shield is nothing but Greek lettering, ancient Greek lettering, the kind of stuff that Zack Snyder had in 300. He has that kind of Greek detail in his Wonder Woman, and I think it's kind of story specific. So check out the Barbie doll for Wonder Woman based on Gal Gadot. It's fabulous. Anyways, what else is going on? We're going to see you next week. We've got a lot more details. Follow me on Twitter at QuickBeam2000 and follow him at Justin's Big Idea. Until next week, bye.